Yeah, I was talking to you about the panda earlier.
Yeah, the red panda, the missing red panda. I don't know, the escape artists, I guess.
Yeah, I was reading that article. It said they actually escape pretty often. Like they somehow red pandas find ways to get out. But anyways, let's go ahead. Let's bring in this episode so we can do a little bit of this game recap. Obviously, I'm running about an hour behind my schedule, but just trying to keep up. Let's go ahead and kick this one off. Where's the music? There it is.
This is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Chase Vernon.
Oh, yes, and I am not alone. No, I am not alone for this episode, guys. We actually have some fun times coming at you guys. Two of my newest writers over here and two of the newest team members, honestly, to Fantasy Intervention. I do have to introduce, of course, Jacob. What's going on, Jacob? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Getting excited for another day of football, another day in paradise.
I'm ready for it, man. I'm so ready for it. And of course, we have Jeff down there. What's up, Jeff?
Not much. How's it going? I'm excited for today. You know, I'm still basking in my glow of victory of the Bill last night and ready to watch a little bit more stress-free football today. So,
how crazy my DFS drive me last night? Like, you guys are part of the group chat. You guys are seeing how close I was getting, and then the Marquise Brown overthrow happened, and I about lost my shit. Luckily, like we were closed at the bar. I was just doing my closing work and cleaning up and everything. But when that overthrow happened, I yelled like loud as fuck. Like it just it out. No, like I was so pissed because that would have actually put me in $3,500 or more, to finish out that game. So very, very disappointed that that overthrow happened, but it is what it is. Anyways, we are here to talk a little bit about this episode. We're going to discuss a little bit of DFS, discuss some of the stuff that's going to be happening throughout this game. Nothing too crazy. Just kind of hanging out, talking, drinking some White Claws early in the afternoon. So, yeah, that's what I had to go grab a White Claw, But it is what it is. So let's go ahead and launch this episode off, or the show off. And first off, we have the game that's about to happen, right? Kansas City and the Browns.
that's right.
So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the weather report, and obviously we saw some issues, talking about the overthrow. We saw some issues with, the wind playing in effect. And sitting there looking at the Browns and the Chiefs, I'm seeing that wind could be another issue. It says moderate winds with strong gusts from end zone to end zone. Is that going to concern you guys about the way that this game could go? Is this something that could affect your slate or anything like that?
Yes and no for me. I mean, I was very not concerned about the wind for the full 4-game slate and for yesterday, and I ended up being way overweight on Josh Allen. I had Lamar as my cash game quarterback, so it's been a morning of overnight swapping all of my cash lineups. But I think Mahomes is still clearly the best play on the slate. That being said, from a game theory perspective, if you're playing tournaments, any reason to be able to find a rationale to get off what's going to be a super chalky Mahomes and get on to Brady, I think is a good idea. And so if the wind can play a factor in keeping Mahomes down from going totally nuclear, and you could ever outpace him with Brady, then sure, why not? Get on board with the wind.
How are you feeling about that, Jeff? Is this something that could actually skew your lineups? Like, did it affect any way that you were actually attacking this slate at all?
Well, I do think for the Browns to have a real good chance to win today, they need some intervention from the wind and to slow down Mahomes a little bit. I think they need a very specific game script a lot of run with Chubb and with Hunt. And so if you're playing for the Browns staying competitive, it's a factor. And if Chubb or Hunt on your value play and they're in your lineup, then I think that's something you're happy to see. I know I'm in G-Man Base King group, and I actually went with Baker in that group. It was a 20-person group, and I thought that was a little bit of a contrary play. Stacked him with Higgins to try to win that, but win concerns me a little bit there, and that is obviously playing a Browns from behind script that we could see very well.
Yeah, just sitting there and looking at I guess this year game. Like I'm going to have plenty of shares of Patrick Mahomes. Like that's my biggest thing. It's like I'm locking Patrick Mahomes in the majority of my lineups. But it does kind of offer a little bit of hope, Patrick Mahomes is used to playing in the stadium. And honestly, like I don't even hate Baker Mayfield that much. This is something as to where Baker Mayfield's going to be playing catch up the entire time, and it will make things interesting. But, sitting there and looking at it is the Chiefs, are the Chiefs almost locked in to win this game? Or do you think there is a chance that they actually could come out and, put up some big time points on the other side or falter at all?
I think the Chiefs, I would take them even with the points in the spot. If you look at the history of Reed coming off a bye week, and especially Reed and Mahomes with time to prepare, it is a super deadly combination. And I mean, they've been approaching this whole regular season, especially the second half of the season, it seems like, as a glorified bye week. They're holding back a lot of their best stuff. Cleveland is a very susceptible defense. And I don't know what they're going to do to be able to stop what Mahomes wants to do. I mean, their weakest point all year really on defense has been over the middle of the field against the tight end. I think Travis Kelce is going to eat their soul today. And, they're missing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Okay, it's, the Chiefs don't really want to run the ball anyway, right? So I think they're going to pass it a lot to Kelce. If the Browns start bracketing Kelce and double teaming him, they have Hill on the outside. Missing Watkins today could be more of a thing than we realize. He plays a valuable role for that team, even if it doesn't always show up at the stat sheet. But I still think they're going to put up 35 or 40. I think there's a stat out there where after a bye week with Reed and Mahomes, I think they've put up like a minimum of 31 or something in every single game. So Browns are going to have to score points.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Reed off a bye week, I think it's him and Belichick that are just dominant after bye week. So it's something that I love to see. What about you, Jeff? Like, you're sitting there looking at it, is there any chance the Browns, is there anything that could happen with this game?
Well, yesterday we saw the favorites really stepped up. They covered those margins, and I think we're at the point of the year now where the favorites kind of do tend to go through in that, and especially you look at a quarterback like Mahomes, the experience that they gained last year. I am on the Chiefs side. I think the Chiefs are going to win pretty comfortably. Certainly, Browns fans, I'm pulling for you, and you'd love to see that Bills-Browns the AFC Championship matchup. But that is a tough ask, and I do think Mahomes and the Chiefs are likely to probably cover today. So,
I mean, don't forget about last year, man. Tennessee surprised a lot of people. Winning. They beat what was it, the Patriots, and they beat the Ravens.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, and they did it through the running game, and they did it to a team that was susceptible up against the run in both these games. So looking at it, I mean, if anybody could beat the Chiefs, at this point, that I would pick in this round, I guess. I'm sitting there looking at it as dude, the Browns have a good chance with that run game. And I believe Bitonio's back in, right?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah. And then Wyatt Teller's an absolute monster over there. I really do think that this could happen. So sitting there looking at it, I have a ton of shares of Chubb, a ton of shares of Kareem Hunt as well, just in case they are from behind, having to, play from behind and pick it up. But I mean, is anybody going to be crazy chalk from this matchup?
I think Kelce is going to be absurd chalk. Even looking at the 4-game slate, there was only 24% average ownership on all combined tight ends that played yesterday.
Really? Including Mark Andrews, huh?
Yeah, he was only at about, I think, 16% in contests that I saw. That's using in cash, so that's showing where people's optimals are. So I expect that shows me that everyone wants to play Kelce today. I think Hooper will be the second most popular tight end today. I don't think anyone really wants to mess around with that late game. I think Kelce, we're going to see 60% ownership levels in this one, which could leave Tyreek Hill a little bit under-owned because I think people are going to want to play Mahomes. They're going to want to play Kelce. So to me, while I think Kelce is the better play if I'm building out a cash lineup, if if I'm playing tournaments, I would probably want to play Tyreek Hill because I could see him getting squeezed a little bit if everyone wants to play Kelsey and Kamara and Mahomes.
I might go do a lineup right now as we do the show to get more shares of Tyreek Hill, because I actually do have a lot of shares of Hill, but I didn't know that the tight end ownership was that high. And like you brought up, like it's very, very difficult to get in Hill and Kelsey and some of these higher end, running backs over here. So that makes things extremely, extremely interesting. So let's talk about the later game, right? That's going to be indoors. We shouldn't have any kind of weather affecting, what's going on. We've seen New Orleans dominate now. Two of the games earlier in the season, I believe, week 1, week 9. So looking at it, is this indicative, or the previous 2 games indicative of what could happen this upcoming week, or the Buccaneers just hot right now? Could the Buccaneers actually just dominate? We'll start out with Jeff.
Traditionally, it seems very hard for a division team to win 3 games against one team within a season, and I think that portrays into the Bucs' favor. Home field advantage, how much is it going to play into it? That's a big question. But you're right, and it does. In the previous matchups, it did look like the Saints seemed to have their number and have the recipe a little bit. I wonder how much with Taysom Hill potentially out and with Latavius Murray potentially out, definitely out. You're looking at a lot on Kamara, and if anything were to happen there, the Saints might be in trouble quick. And so I don't know, they are a team that if the script starts to go wrong, I would feel really good for the Bucs. But as I look at them heads up, I do kind of tend to lean Bucs just as that difficulty of being a team 3 times in one season.
Dude, I mean, honestly, it's very interesting with Kamara, and we'll dive into that in a second. But Jacob, what are you seeing with this game? How is your mindset going? What's the storyline for how this game ends up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be a close game. It's I believe it was the tightest spread of the 4, at least tied with Baltimore and Buffalo last night. Personally, I like the Bucs side a little bit more in this game. I just trust their offense more, especially with the Saints being pretty limited. I think that the Bucs with Todd Bowles are going to be able to get pressure on Breeze. They really only have to cover Thomas in the pass game, right? It's a lot of limited options. With Kamara, I mean, he's going to be effective in the pass game, but the Bucs shut down the run, and Kamara's never had a whole lot of success on the ground against Tampa Bay. So I don't know where the explosive plays come from with New Orleans. Tampa's really struggled on offense against New Orleans this year, and we'll see if that continues. But Brady's been on an absolute heater here over the back half of the season. Since they've had everybody healthy with Godwin and Evans and AB, they've been rolling. And I just think it's going to be hard for New Orleans to make sure that all 3 of those wide receivers, are covered up. And I trust Brady more to have success this game than I do Drew Brees.
Well, sitting and looking at it, I mean, Emmanuel Sanders kind of makes a little bit of sense for some DFS contrarian plays and whatnot because of Michael Thomas and getting the pressure that he's getting. Is there anybody else out there that could be a little bit more contrarian in this game that not many people are looking at?
I like Cook just because I want to take any excuse to play a tight end that's not Kelsey this week if I can, just because I think he's going to be so highly owned, even though he's a great play. But if you're building contrarian, I don't mind Jared Cook. Tampa's been somewhat more exploitable against tight ends. And if they do go all out to stop Michael Thomas, I think Cook could be interesting. Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat, Traquan Smith is coming off IR. That just makes me like Sanders slightly less, and it makes me definitely not want to chase the Deontay Harris, I think, who set the world record for targets per route run last week. He ran 14 routes and got 8 targets or something goofy. But, I don't know. Sanders could do it for sure. I think any of those sort of dusty Saints plays are interesting. And then from the Bucs perspective, a lot of people have been talking online about Marshawn Lattimore always shutting down Mike Evans. If there's any chance that Mike Evans comes in under-owned, I really don't care that much about cornerback matchups, especially with Lattimore regressing this year. So if Evans, who's just a little bit under the price of Michael Thomas this week, comes in really under-owned, I would want to be overweight on Mike Evans.
I've got a name for you, Adam Troutman. How about that?
Ooh, that's interesting.
I mean, you're talking about probably a role that Taysom Hill did play prior to this, and Deontay Harris is being used as he's the gadget guy. He's not built like Taysom Hill is. These plays were not designed for somebody his size and with his skill set. Meanwhile, you have an extremely agile, bigger tight end who can play that role. I mean, Adam Troutman, for me, I have him in a few lineups. I think that he could absolutely smash faces this week. Jeff, is there anybody else you're looking at?
The Saints make me nervous. We've seen them. They're very much a funnel offense, especially when they've got Thomas and they got Kamara's the only option in the run game. I think to go contrarian, you're really just praying for a touchdown, and at that point, you're really just picking the guy that you want to ride with. Maybe the salary that fits best to make your lineup work. But we have seen the Saints just funnel everything through Thomas and Kamara once you get into these high leverage games.
Yeah, and we saw Emmanuel Sanders, by the way, have some excellent games. He's had double-digit fantasy points in four of the past 4 games in the regular season. Then all of a sudden, Michael Thomas comes back last week, and he puts up 2.3 points, which is absolutely nothing. So it's absolutely brutal for that position. I still like to play a little bit of Sanders, but let's go ahead and talk about Alvin Kamara, because although the Buccaneers are very stout up front, they actually let a lot of receptions go to the running back. The running backs have averaged, I don't have the numbers in front of me. We did it earlier this week in DFS, but they're allowing over 15 points to the running back in the passing game, averaged out over the past 5 weeks or something like that. So sitting there and looking at it, Alvin Kamara, yeah, they might end up shutting him down to an extent, but 15 points out of the receiving game, and we all know how talented he is. Is Alvin Kamara a must play, or are you guys fading him?
He's a must play in cash to me. I mean, without Latavius Murray there and without Taysom, I mean, I don't know how he's going to end up getting vultured as he is wont to do. So I love Alvin Kamara this week in cash. In tournaments, his ownership might just be super, super crazy. And if you want to play, other priority guys, maybe that's a way you can get off and hope that he just doesn't end up getting a rushing touchdown. But I agree with you. If anyone sees that DVP matchup and gets scared off, I certainly don't care. Kamara has given us many, many incredible fantasy performances with almost nothing on the ground in his career, and especially this year. So, if he's inefficient on the ground, which I expect him to be, doesn't really affect me too much. Hopefully he gets a touchdown if you're playing him, and hopefully you're getting 8-9 catches, because Todd Bowles is going to blitz. And when he's blitzing Drew Brees, the first thing Brees looks to do is check it down right to AK-41.
And Adam Troutman.
And Adam Troutman. Yes, Adam Troutman.
We'll get to Jeff's opinion on Alvin Kamara here in a second, but we do have Brad in the chat. He wants to know Rashard Higgins, Emmanuel Sanders. Who do you guys feel more comfortable in a DFS lineup? And obviously, I think it's going to boil more so down to tournaments versus cash games. I think the Emmanuel Sanders is just a little bit too expensive to feel safe playing in cash games. Meanwhile, his tournament upside is there. He's still a dart throw to an extent, but he's just a little bit too expensive. I can't pay down and be okay with him taking a 0, essentially. How are you guys feeling about that?
I would lean Higgins between the two choices. I just think game script that you're looking at with the Browns probably having to keep up with the Chiefs, and you've seen what Higgins has done the second half of the season. He seems to be a big part of that offense when all pieces are in line.
Yeah, Higgins is an exceptional play for me. He's a lock in all of my cash games, and I'll play him a lot in tournaments because he's Rashard Higgins. So how high is his ownership really going to get? And especially with Sammy Watkins out, we got guys like Demarcus Robinson and Mecole Hardman that should be taking up some of that ownership in that area around 4K. That should keep some of it off Rashard Higgins, who I prefer to both those Chiefs wide receivers, and definitely prefer straight up and price adjusted to Emmanuel Sanders.
I meant to do some research for this, but with everything that's going on over there at Fantasy Intervention, I've just been slam packed. I really wanted to look up the difference, when Watkins misses time and Mecole Hardman's stats, because when I went back and I looked at it previously earlier in the year, and this was halfway through the year I looked at it, Robinson was the guy that was benefiting the most, not Mecole Hardman. So has that been a trend that you guys have seen, or is Mecole Hardman even a play this week? Because I think that he's going to have decently high ownership, and I think you should fade him.
Yeah, I think you look back at Hardman. When Hardman was drafted, there was all that stuff going on with Tyreek Hill, and I almost think that pick was the Chiefs knowing they needed that deep threat in their offense. And it almost seems like a direct backup to Tyreek Hill. I've seen it. We've seen it throughout the season. We've seen all the offseason hype. Everybody's expecting Hardman to blow up. But it really does seem like he's just Tyreek Hill's backup. And they've got different receivers that they ask to do different things. And I do think that Robinson's likely to land in that Watkins role, kind of intermediate, those type of routes, while they use Hill to take the top of the defense. And Hardman's just kind of a bit play.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I actually really liked Hardman this week prior to finding out that Watkins was out, just because especially in the playoffs, Reed always brings out a few new wrinkles, and Hardman's often the feature of those wrinkles, just in terms of how he's used, how they want to get him in space. But to me, he's still a package player, and the Watkins injury, while it loosens up some more snaps for him, it's not a big difference. The bigger beneficiary is definitely Demarcus Robinson. He's going to step into that X role. Tyreek Hill's still going to play his role, and Hardman's going to mix in when he mixes in. I expect that he'll probably see, maybe more like 50% of the snaps rather than sort of his usual 30% of the snaps. I still wouldn't be projecting more than 4 or 5 targets, maybe a couple carries or sweeps and stuff to him this week. And if you're playing him, you're just hoping for that big play. So he always has upside, but if he's popular, I never want popular Mecole Hardman.
Well, let's take a little bit of a look at, Darwin Thompson rate versus Darrell Williams, and sitting there and looking at, like the games they put up. I mean, I know the Chiefs pretty much had it locked into the time, but he played in week 17. That's the last time that he did play. We have to find out if he's active or not. I'm not showing that he's inactive. Like, sitting there and looking at it, Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. Like, is this something as to where we could see like one of these other 2 guys go off outside of Le'Veon Bell? Because Le'Veon Bell doesn't look like the same person.
No, and I want Darwin Thompson to happen so bad. I've plugged as a bench filler, but you see the only opportunity he got was in a Week 17 game that the Chiefs just didn't feel like they needed to win at all. And it seems that they trust Darrell Williams kind of more as a protector from Mahomes, third down outlet, more so than willing to put Thompson in that spot as badly as I really want Thompson to happen.
You just don't think it's going to happen?
I have a real hard time believing that he's going to go from having almost no role throughout the entire season, except for in a meaningless Week 17, and all of a sudden in a playoff game, they're going to start giving him high leverage. Whereas I think they just trust Williams as that protector from Mahomes that much more.
Yeah, I tend to be with you. I don't mind Bell this week for the price. I don't know how popular he'll be. I feel like, I don't know. I get the feeling that Bell won't be that popular this week, but if he is, then I would regret playing like any of him in tournaments because he's kind of a gross play. Just he looks slow, but Darrell Williams is even slower. I think Darwin is clearly the best running back that's healthy on this team right now, but I don't expect them to use him. I hope they do, but yeah, I would have a hard time justifying playing a lot of him.
I like it, man. I mean, it's just tough. It's tough to sit there and look at a lot of these other options because there's just so many good names on this slate that you just want to stick with, but you're going to have to find some flyers in here. And I'm going through the flyers right now. And I'm looking for a flex option that's below 4,200. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at, Darwin Thompson, Emmanuel Sanders, Darrell Williams, Rashad Higgins, who we brought up earlier. And I mean, Mecole Hardman, maybe. Jared Cook's only 38, but is there anybody that stands out as like a guy that you actually want to, put your money on flyer wise? Like even Byron Pringle makes a little bit of sense, doesn't he?
It has to be a very large
tournament. I was going to say, we've seen Pringle step up and have moments in the past. I look at it as either Mahomes is going to come out there throwing flames and they're just going to get up, score a lot quick. It's going to be the type of messy game. But I have struggled to find where they're leaning on the run game other than just running out a lead. So if you're just looking to find a wide receiver to put into your lineup, I think it's never bad advice to grab a piece of Mahomes, especially an undervalued piece like Pringle, whereas Hardman could be looking at a very similar role and really struggle to hit value while being widely owned.
I'll take it.
Yeah, it can happen, right? I mean, anyone who gets snaps in the Chiefs offense has an opportunity to score a touchdown, and he could certainly score one today. Cameron Brate is a guy I would look at. He ran more routes, got a lot more targets than Rob Gronkowski last week. If you're looking for a very cheap tight end, I don't think Brate is the worst option that you could do. And I mean, I know he had the bigger role last week, but I feel like it won't actually equate to larger ownership because who wants to play Cam Brate? But I would rather play like Brate than Gronk for sure, and I would rather play Robinson than Hardman. I don't know if I want to play Pringle, but if I'm playing a really large tournament, then why not? He could certainly, I could certainly see like 3 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. That's very possible.
Yeah, and that pays him off, so it makes sense. All right, guys, go ahead and let everybody know where to find you. We're going to get out of here, get ready for some football. We'll start out with you, Jacob.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at ff_RTDB. Got some new content out on fantasyintervention.com. A couple new videos out on YouTube as well. So come find me and hang out, and I'll be live tilting the games with you all.
Very excited for that. All right, Jeff, let me know where to find you.
Yeah, Twitter at For Whom J Bell Tolls. I'm blowing up timeline all the time. And I had a piece that come out. I write for Going for Two Live. I'm actually getting involved in the Devi space over there. And I've come aboard with Fantasy Intervention. I've got a piece in the pipeline I'm working on that I'll hopefully be having come out soon.
Very excited for that, man. We got crazy amount of articles coming out. That's why I've been busy since 7 a.m. this morning. I don't even check Twitter until I'll briefly check it around 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And then I won't really get on it full force until 10, unless I had a crazy morning like I did this morning. But it's just so crazy with what's going on over there, and sitting there, I don't have enough time in the day. Obviously, getting out started a little bit an hour late, or getting started about an hour late wasn't ideal, but it's just part of the game right now. Listen, we appreciate you guys for joining in. You guys can all go check us out at @joinourcircle_ on Twitter. Once again, that's @joinourcircle_ on Twitter. We appreciate you guys for coming in, and thank you all for letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.